Okay, so I'm so excited to have Angie from Angie Tutorials at the podcast here today. In just a few years, she has built herself a strong reputation as a content coach and a content creator. And she already boasts many accomplishments under her belt. She wrote her first book just last year, Created to Create. She was this year invited to the Cannes Lions Award as a very special guest and coach. More about that in the episode. And one of her dreams came true, I believe. Yes, one of her dreams came true when she was invited to the Apple campus in California for the iPhone 16 launch. And today she'll be telling us more about all of these experiences and sharing some of her exclusive tips on how to use these apps and tools. And the reason I wanted to share her story today is because on the screen, as well as in person, she is dynamic, she is passionate, she is enthusiastic, extremely enthusiastic about what she does. And above all, she is her natural self in all circumstances, in all contexts that I've personally seen her so far. And I think for any future content creators or actual content creators listening to us today, there's much that we can learn from her approach. So welcome, Angie.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm very happy to have you. So today we will go into your personal journey, some of the challenges you faced, obviously some of your personal highlights, which there are already many to talk about. I'm very excited to hear some of your tips about all the new updates, tools, apps that you're using all the time. And of course, we'll get into some bonus tips specific to the iPhone 16.
Yes, absolutely. There's so many.
And just to begin, so what do you do and how did it start?
So I do call myself a content creator and coach, which is a role that I basically gave myself because when I started, it was not a job. It wasn't there. It wasn't out there. I started when TikTok kind of blew up during the pandemic. I actually was working here in London after taking my master's in strategic marketing at the Estée Lauder companies as part of the marketing team. And I was really looking forward to entering their graduate scheme, which I had worked hard for. And then it got canceled because of COVID. So, as many other people that in that moment were looking for jobs, I found myself really lost. And when I discovered TikTok, I really, really fell in love with the platform because it gave me the chance, like it gives the chance to anyone to share something other than their personal day-to-day life. To me personally, it gave me the chance to start teaching, which is what I really wanted to do. I used to always ask my mom how the hair dryer would dry my hair, or how the car would move, or any other sort of like technical devices or apps and platforms would work. And as I started to kind of teach myself all of that, I also wanted to share what I learned with anyone that would be willing to listen. And it turned out to be my career.
Mm-hmm. So you clearly did not set out on this path. And then there was a transition in the midst of chaos, of COVID, of not being able to do your degree. And what are some of the fears or psychological blockers that you had to kind of go through as you made this transition and essentially created this job and title as you refer to it?
So, as I mentioned, I was in the marketing team of a big corporation, which means that I was literally in the position that my clients are in now,
Mm-hmm.
which means that I basically lived both realities. I've seen both sides, and it obviously helps me a lot in my job today because I know how to deal with them, I know how to work with them. But at the time, it really wasn't an easy transition, as you said. For 2 years, I kept on working as a full-time employee, as I was creating content, as I was coaching already some brands. And I mean, just to be blunt, I was literally gaining more in one day as a content creator and coach than I was in a month at my full-time job, which says a lot. And says a lot about the fact that I really wasn't ready to let go, because for 2 years I kept on doing that. So I was taking holidays from my full-time job to be able to perform my current job, which is giving workshops and speeches to companies and following them on the long run on their strategy for creating content, which is not social media strategy. It's literally specific to content creation in the form of vertical short videos. So TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. And yeah, it was really complicated. For some time, I was actually blaming it on my family, but I think that that wasn't really the case. My mom has always been my biggest supporter, my biggest fan. She was always kind of harsh in our upbringing, in us having to, be independent and absolutely kind of try and build our path. And I think she was scared when I told her I wanted to be a full-time content creator. I definitely think so. But she knew that I wouldn't do it without the security that that would be something that would lead me somewhere, that I already had some clients. I already had kind of proven myself with some numbers, with some pieces of content that really went really well, with some events that I participated to. So she knew that I wasn't just quitting to start tomorrow with my first video.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped. And I think that helped me as well.
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy because despite, let's say, the support of your family, the belief of your family, despite the fact that you already had a proven concept in a way, when you started your tutorial channels, you actually hid it from your friends and family for a while. So again, why did you do that? And at which point did you change the perception of the value and the work that you do?
Yeah, it's funny you're asking that, because moments ago we were having a glass of water and I was telling you about this piece of content that I shot this morning, which relates to this so well, because Instagram just released a new feature called the trial reel, which basically allows you to post a piece of content only for people who don't follow you. So people who follow you won't see it. And then after 24 hours, you'll receive the insights and you'll decide whether to share it with people who follow you or not. And this will be available tomorrow for everyone. I had the privileged alpha creator feature, so I tested it in the past weeks. And it's fantastic. And I think this could really help those people who, like me at the beginning, are scared to post, and they're not scared of people who don't know them. They're scared of people who know them. You're scared of what your mom, your sister, your friend, or the person you went to school with will say. You're not scared of that average Joe who doesn't know you and will open the app and see your face. So I think this is really a game changer. I mean, but yeah, and when I did start, I didn't tell anyone. As you saw, it wasn't easy. But yeah, I mean, every single creator I speak to had the same kind of fear.
And it makes sense because in a way, the people who know you, whether it's your friends, your family, they kind of have this idea of who you are, and you kind of are a certain persona for all of your life.
100%.
And when you start something new, you're building a new persona. And it's kind of a little bit awkward to show that character of you, that version of you, to the people that have known you in a different way.
100%. And I also think that people might, even implicitly, without wanting to feel threatened a little bit by the jump of someone they know kind of doing it, because it's hard to put yourself out there and just to stare at the camera and start talking. So I think people might feel a bit, kind of, I don't know. I don't know what the psychological aspect to it is. It would be interesting to actually.
Of course.
Yeah.
And this podcast is about the women, the go-getters, the ones that act, the ones that pursue their dreams. So hopefully, someone listening to your story, that will give them the drive and the motivation and the courage to kind of take that step.
I really
So I think that's how we all find inspiration, through role models and through stories and shared knowledge from other people that have walked the path before us.
And speaking of fears, we were just talking about the way that we're matching today, and I absolutely like.
I love it. I love that we did not plan this, actually.
Not at all.
But I think it's going to become my signature move. Leopard, a touch of leopard.
I love it.
Or some wild animal. And there's another paradox about what you do, because the industry of content creation is predominantly female-led. However, you operate in a niche, which is women in tech. So, and actually, in most of the events that you've been invited to, and especially the one of your personal highlights, the Apple launch event, you were one of very few women, and that's something that I imagine you experience quite often. So, what has been your experience as a woman in tech?
So I think already tech is an industry that's kind of left behind in this world. I feel like obviously beauty and fashion and more glamorous niches and industries are predominant on the platforms that we see every day, just because obviously they're the first ones to see the kind of business opportunity behind it.
Yeah.
So most beauty brands are the first actually that jumped on the platforms and the first to actually call me for coaching. And then now I get gas companies calling me.
Love to know what they ask you to do for them, but we'll get to that later, how you work with brands. Yeah.
It's quite interesting to see that kind of like shift
Yeah.
in the industries that discover this world later and the opportunities of this world later. And so tech is obviously huge. It's obviously all we're talking about, but within the platforms, creators that speak about tech are still limited compared to, as I was saying, other industries. And so women are even a smaller niche within the small niche of tech for content creation, which actually sometimes plays to my favor. I have to be honest, because um, yeah, because I'm more of a scarce kind of resource. And so a brand might want to use me because there's not many of me around, especially because I create content in Italian. And so it's a specific market, a specific language. So it kind of does play to my favor in this case specifically. Then again, obviously, I do get the fantastic, backfire of people assuming that because I'm a woman, I don't understand anything about how tech works, which I mean, I kind of learned to deal with, and it happens very often. It happens,
Really?
yeah, it happens very often. So I do know that I don't know everything, but
But no one does.
job, yeah, it's also been my job for 4 or 5 years. So I think I know one thing or two, and it's funny
Yeah.
how yeah, I feel that. I can feel that. And that's specifically gender related, I think.
Yeah.
I can see that very often. Even when I say I'm a tech content creator, people
They have a
like, yeah, they're like, You're not doing beauty? You're not doing fashion? And I'm like, oh, I'm doing yeah. Which is totally fine. I actually like it. I like to have that reaction.
Yeah, you're breaking the stereotype, which again is what we're all about here.
Yeah.
And then you felt so much empowered at some point in your journey, I imagine, and so much support that you actually wrote a book. So tell me about that. How did that happen? What drove you to do that?
I think that was really one of the best things that's ever, happened to me, because as I mentioned, it was hard for me to quit. And when I finally did, it took time for me to find my balance, for which I wasn't always worried about next month, about the next campaign. Will they call me back? Will this go any further? Will I have the drive to create more content? There's so many question marks, and
Yeah. And these are the psychological implications of anyone who's in this space, right?
uh
And you kind of have to deal with this uncertainty.
yes, yeah. So I think these are the psychological barriers that any entrepreneur faces.
Yeah.
But then again, a content creator is even more pressured because of the volatility of everything.
Yeah.
Just think about the TikTok ban right now,
Yeah.
everything that's happening. So you gotta kind of take it with a pinch of, lightheartedness, and kind of like try to play with it. And I kind of make peace with the fact that if tomorrow all the platforms close, fingers crossed it's not gonna happen, I would still have developed some skills that might be useful to me in some other field. So
Mhm.
it took some time, but I calmed down.
Yeah.
And I took every day as it comes. And in this industry, in this job specifically, you have to do that. You have to be flexible, because every day is a new day. And maybe today I wake up and I get a message from a woman in Mondadori, which is one of the biggest publishing, firms in Italy, who asks me if I want to talk about my journey and write a book with them. And I'm like, what? Like, I still to this day don't believe I, fully grasped what was happening to me. And I think that people were just so interested in this new role, this new world that was opening up that they would just kind of want to know. And so I said yes. And I started, thinking about it and writing and researching. And it's funny because I've always, always wanted to be a writer. Always. Yeah, when I was young, my friends would always tell me that I really would have been good as a writer because I always used to kind of help them with messages for their boyfriends or,
And that's really interesting because actually content creation, as we think about it today, related to digital channels, um, is, very much related to what you do. But if you think about it in the past, I'd say writing is probably the first form of content creation, right?
yeah, even today, scripting is one of the key passages in the content process. And if you don't script well, you can still manage, but if you script well, it really kind of like shortens it makes it much more efficient and much easier to
So it's still the first step and one of the crucial steps of the
right.
process.
Especially, let's not forget, I'm an educational content creator, and the first form of education is reading a book, right? So really putting it in paper was important. Then again, there was the challenge of obviously writing about something that can change every day. So writing about a platform that can have an update tomorrow.
Yeah. How do you make sure your content your book is relevant in 5 years, right?
Exactly. So then I decided to actually insert 20 QR codes in the book that can be obviously changed whenever I want.
That's very smart.
Thanks. I thought it was cool because it's a book that's meant to be read with your phone in the other hand, which is not necessarily something that's very usual, but I do give so many case studies, so many examples of other amazing creators or brands. There's a whole chapter about brands who obviously managed to, nail this language, and you have to check it out as you're reading the book because otherwise you don't understand it. So book in one hand, phone in the other, and then you scan the QR code whenever you want to see my tutorials because I did insert my video tutorials in the QR codes. And so yeah, it kind of like combines the two worlds.
Yeah, you have the theory, you have the practice, and then you have the kind of timeless type of advice, and then the QR codes, which allows you to always make it relevant by refreshing and updating
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
examples, which is really it's quite a genius way of doing it. Sadly, it's only available in Italian.
Sadly.
Any plans to
We'll see. We'll
working? Okay. And the subtitle of your book is Anyone Can Be a Content Creator. So you truly believe that to be the case. And of course, if I read your book, I will understand why. But since I can't, can we zoom in a little bit on that? Because my perception, and I may be wrong, is that there isn't a winning formula.
So firstly, actually, it's funny that you asked me this question because when I did present my book in Milan, in the Mondadori in Piazza Duomo, there was an old man in the crowd that I think he just came in for, I don't know, out of boredom. Like, I don't think he came specifically for me or for my book, but he asked me exactly this question. He had my book in his hand and he was like, actually, he didn't ask me anything. He just challenged me. He was like, I don't think that anyone can be a creator. And I was like, awesome. I love you for saying that. So, what it means, I always say that I'll never tell you what to create. No, that's part of yours, creative self. And I mean, that's not my role. What I'll do is I'll give you the toolbox with all the tools to make sure that you can kind of like get it out of you, your creative self and your secret kind of specific creative thing that makes you you and makes you different from anyone else. So I'll just give you the tools, and then it's obviously your job to kind of get it out there. But I'll guide you. I'll help you. I'll give you feedback if you wish. And as you said, there is absolutely no golden rules. There's absolutely no kind of like one way or one path. But I feel like people kind of perceive these golden rules. They just look the wrong way. So don't see it as there's a perfect hashtag or a perfect time to post or a perfect number of posts that I need to achieve per week, or that's, completely useless. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energies. Focus the other way. Focus on breaking that psychological barrier, finding what really makes you yourself instead of just checking what everybody else is doing. And I feel like most people actually need to break that barrier to then start to think they're strong people. Everything is content. Anything and everything is content. Even if you get home from your 9 to 5 and you have to do laundry and walk your dog and clean the house, I mean, place a tripod in front of you and just start shooting and start telling people about the struggles of your day. Maybe they have the same. Maybe they relate to it. Maybe you'll teach something new.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so true, because I sometimes get so amazed by the abundance of types of content that exists. And sometimes I will come across a random video related to a random topic because for some reason I'm researching that topic. And I'll always be amazed at the number of views that certain videos can have and the number of comments. And it just shows that there is such a wide range of interests, of audiences, and ultimately there are people that are interested in what you have to share. It's just finding the right people and you communicating that in an authentic way, I guess.
That is so true. I actually feel I've had people in the past in my coaching sessions come to me and they'd say, look, I don't feel like I belong on TikTok. I scroll, I watch, and I don't think anything really fits what I'd like to do. And I'm like, great, great. There's a gap. Go for it. Great. That's so good. I mean, you want to be another beauty creator that just shows, that's hard. That's the hard part. That's kind of like an entry point that really places you in a comfortable position because you're like the first one to do it. It's a little more challenging to be, as I said, like one of the many. You can still do it if you have a fresh angle, if you have like, let's not get discouraged. But yeah, it's easier if actually there's no one that does what you do. In my book and always in my coaching sessions, I share this metaphor, which might seem a little weird, but I always associate it in my head and it really helps me when I create. I associate TikTok to the city of London and I associate Instagram to the city of Paris, in the sense that in London, just like on the platform of TikTok, you can always find whatever you are looking for. You can always find a person, a neighborhood, a place that fits the strange interest and passion that you have. And it's the same on the platform. Like there's really nothing too weird. If you like to sleep, you'll find someone who likes the same. Whatever you think is kind of your place, your thing, you'll find people, you'll find a community or you'll build it. Instagram, on the other hand, is very aesthetic, very romantic. It's quite inspirational. It's quite, social, just like the city of Paris in everyone's kind of collective mind. I know it's a weird metaphor, but I mix a lot of metaphors, and I think it really helps. And you then go and create, and you then distinguish what goes on which platform, how to kind of tailor it to it as well.
Yeah, it's almost like, Paris has such a strong personality itself that when you go there, you're sucked into it. Similar to Instagram, you kind of fit into its aesthetics, its rules, let's say. Whereas in TikTok, it's like London. You can go to any neighborhood and be whoever you want.
Exactly.
I love that. Can you give us a few examples of when a company approaches you and they need your help with content? First of all, what do they ask you for and how do you help them?
So part of my title that we've shared earlier, content creator and content coach, is about that. So that's 50% of my job, 50% of my returns. It's literally half of me. Obviously, both sides work together, but that's really the driver, the half driver of my business. That's what really led me to then ultimately quit, because I knew that I had this kind of more offline physical part of it, which would ground me, What happened is that I did not look for it. I did not seek it. Some companies saw my content, saw that I was explaining how to create this, replicate this format, how to understand this trend and use it in a business savvy way. And so they contacted me and they asked me to go and share these tips live and perhaps tailor them to what they were doing and their objectives and the briefs that they had and whatever. So I started doing that and I loved it. I loved public speaking. I loved helping people. As I said, I always wanted to teach, always wanted to be in that kind of sector. So I started and I never stopped. The coaching side actually is very much international in the sense that I've coached in French, in English, in Italian, and in different kind of parts of Europe mainly. And it's always super tailored to whatever the group that I'm coaching is needing. So it could be that we do some office hours where I give feedback on some content that they've created based on, the sessions that we've had, or it could be just a one-off where they really just want to understand how it works and what the role of the creator is. Sometimes they want to actually learn how to create. Sometimes they just want to learn how to work with creators. So it depends on whatever they need in that moment. And then I've also coached a lot of agencies, which was really kind of weird because they came from like the ad world, the media world. So they were working a lot with social media, especially Instagram. But then when TikTok kind of came to disrupt everything, they had to relearn the rules. So they, I think, are the ones that had the hardest time because they're in between two fires, right?
Okay.
They have the client, the creator, and so they have these briefs and they have to kind of translate it into a language that belongs to the platform. It's been really hard for agencies, I feel. Like, also, I always say that there's two machines that have to work and be oiled together. One is the organic one and one is obviously paid one. So to make it easy, and again, with a weird metaphor of mine, I feel like you cannot just keep on throwing money away by calling some huge creators and huge, campaigns that perhaps don't even belong to the platform that much. If then all those people that you're inviting in your home, by telling them, come, 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 come to my profile, come to see and to check out what I do, get to, your door and see that you don't have any furniture, that the house is cold, it's dusty, and they're not going to stay. They're not going to hit that follow button. They're not going to be converted. They're not going to stick around. They're going to leave. So the other machine, the organic one, the one that kind of produces content day by day, that builds that puzzle made of different pieces and that tells the story that goes beyond buy my product, has to work in sync with the paid one. So I can help in both, kind of machines. I can help oil both machines, but it's just understanding how to see it as well. I guess shifting your mindset.
Yeah, I really like that metaphor.
Okay.
And what about your audience? So who is your audience for the book? Who is your audience on social media in terms of the individuals? Why do they consume your content? What are they looking for?
Yeah. So I think that the interesting thing about Angie Tutorials is that it combines two very different world opposites: creativity and technology. And we talk about it so much recently with AI, especially. But the combination of these two worlds are really what makes everything kind of fantastic and magic. So what I do is I obviously uncover all of that technical aspect. So I really dive deep into the tools and the apps and how to make the most of them, especially your phone, because we do use 10% of our phone. But at the same time, I do it, or I hope I do it, in a creative way. So kind of trying to trigger that creativity in whoever's watching. So I think that whoever follows me can follow me for either of these two things. So either they're just purely interested in the text aspect, which is fine, or they just need to create or want to create, but they don't know how to. They see some formats around and they don't know how to replicate them. They don't know how to give voice to their creative selves. They perhaps want to start their own personal brand and they don't know how to market it. Or they work for an established brand and they have to create content for the brand and they don't know how to, achieve their KPIs. Or they want to become a creator and they just, want to use the tools and understand how to do that. What I've started doing recently is work a lot with trends as well. So there's this trends are the fuel for inspiration. So even this idea that came to me came from a trend. So recently, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this walk and talk trend for which a lot of girls, especially girls, guys as well, walk around with their phones and they just talk, as if a brilliant idea just came to mind walking to the tube or on your way to work, but actually it's very much staged, right? So you get out just for that and you get ready just for the content. And the walk and talk is kind of brilliant and it fits perfectly TikTok. And I started using it to talk about trends. So I do explain a new trend that's, popped up and how brands or people who work for brands or people who are creators or have a personal brand can use that to their favor. So that's something that I started to do recently. A new playlist that came to mind recently. So it's always changing. But the target audience remains the same. People who want to learn about content creation.
And how do you connect with your audience?
Well, mainly just through my content, I guess. And we do have a lot of options, especially on Instagram. We have the channel, we have a lot of touch points. My favorite is stories. I've never denied it. I mean, obviously, I'm TikTok native and TikTok will forever be my platform. But my favorite, way to communicate is Instagram stories because I have a direct line to whoever's on the other side. I just say whatever comes to mind as if I was sending them a message on WhatsApp.
And what about the responses and feedback that you receive from your audience? Does that kind of shape some of the content you choose to create?
100%.
What is that relationship?
Definitely 100%. There was a time where I would actually just take their questions and turn them into tutorials. Um, Responses are varied. I can see how something relates to whoever follows me more than something else through their responses. Recently, I would say the biggest example for that is AI because I can assess kind of the the public's opinion on AI or fear around AI or just uh, yeah, in general, just impressions around what's happening with AI through comments and through their messages. And I can assess how far I can push or how much I need to go in detail. Because when you're in this industry, you obviously kind of get very technical and then you speak in a way that people who do completely different jobs don't get, just like I wouldn't get their job. So that helps me to assess like how fast to go, how much to dive into, how scared people are of some things as well, so how I can present it to them for them to be more at ease with it. So it's completely a conversation, never a monologue.
And what is the reality of creating this content? Like, how much time does it take you? What is the actual process that goes behind it,
Yeah, content creation is a job.
Yeah.
It's a job. It's very time consuming. It doesn't have to be. You can make it easier for yourself, obviously. But the way that I do it, the format that I bring to the table is quite time consuming because obviously there's a lot of research to go behind it. Fact checking.
Yeah.
You talked about reputation earlier. You have to trust me. You have to trust what I say. And to build that means that I have to always kind of give good information that's, precise as well. And yeah, so there's a lot of research. Then obviously every single piece of content you create has to be entertaining. Even when you teach, you can never bore. You always need to be creative.
There's a certain performance.
Definitely.
There's the educational part and then there's the performance part.
Yeah.
And then there's fully adapting the content to your channel. It takes so much time. And we're talking about a few seconds of content.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you pack it with so much essential information?
Yeah, I guess it helps to have playlists of content. So you just have to think about what I'm going to talk about today, but then you've already done the how so many times that you're going to.
Okay, so there's a format that you replicate.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like every creator has that. But then again, it's important to always kind of like keep refreshing it. So be open to new, fresh, outlooks and ways to communicate.
Yeah.
So the rule for me is one for them, one for you. So what I do usually is after 4 years of creating every single week, you might get bored of doing always the same thing, or people might be bored of seeing always the same thing. You have to like keep it up, motivation is hard to.
4 years is a lot of posting more than once per day, I imagine.
No, more than once per week.
Okay.
Yeah. At the beginning, I was posting around 3 pieces of content per day, which was completely unsustainable. And now I think I'm posting 4 to 5 times a week, so it's a lot.
But is that the main format, or does that include the stories as well?
No, that's the main format.
The main format, yeah. So then you have that on different channels. Then the stories. It's a lot.
Which is why motivation has to always be up there.
Yeah.
Which is why the one for me, one for them.
So what is that?
Really works. because one, for them, is the format that they know me for, that they can trust, that they're comfortable with, that they know so well, and that they like. And one for me is something new I want to try, something different, a new niche, a new, you know, form, like physical format, a new trend, a new anything that I want to experiment with that can go terribly wrong as well. Just like it can go really well, but at least you have a balance and you can keep that there whilst you search for your next big format.
And that's the ratio, 50-50.
Not always, no, but I try to keep it like that.
Yeah.
But it depends. Sometimes I'm just unmotivated and tired, and I'll just stick to what I know.
And let's dive into that. So how do you maintain that motivation at such a high level?
I guess people are really helping. Whenever I feel a little low, I do dive into my DMs, and I have to say that it gives me such a charge of positivity and motivation to know that I'm helping someone do something, achieving something, or even just a thank you or I loved your video. Really, it really helps. It really brings you a smile, and it kind of gets you going.
I think that's a very nice way of, it's kind of having that feedback loop re-energize you,
Yeah.
right? So you give so much energy and passion to this audience, and then it kind of returns it back to you, which then fuels you and motivates you to do more.
Yeah, but also the satisfaction of being called by from a brand that you love for an ad or for an event or for being part of what they're doing. That's really something. Yeah.
And so tell me about that. How did you develop relationships with some of the strongest players in this space? So I'm thinking of TikTok and Apple.
Yeah, I feel like it is true that the human kind of element plays a role in this, meaning that if you're someone who is very easily, if you're a people person, if you're someone who makes friends easily, and if you show enthusiasm and if you show motivation, you're going to be repaid. Like I'm inherently like that. I think I take it from my mom. Like we're very like, kind of go for it and show a smile and be grateful and stay humble. Like I try at least my best, and I feel like that really helped me to develop a lot of personal relationship as well with people who work in these companies and who appreciate, the effort or showing up and the, being always grateful for whatever I feel like being a content creator is such a privilege, and we complain a lot, but it's such a privilege, like beyond getting some gifts or whatever that may be, just being able to access the strategies of some of the biggest players in the market, for them to open their doors to us and treat us like they do. I feel like you always have to kind of remember that that's not, for not give it for granted, and
Yeah.
kind of if it's going.
In a way, you're at the forefront, the first line of contact of some of these brands with some of their new releases and even updates, and you get to experience it before other people do. And in a way, there's also that feedback from you to them. It's almost as if you're part of their team in a certain way. There's a true partnership.
Yeah, a true partnership.
So can you tell me about your experience with TikTok this year, for example?
Yeah, for sure. So I've worked with TikTok in Italy and in the UK as well, and in the US recently, actually, which is also um, the team that called me to Cannes Lions to, be one of the creators to help and share knowledge on the new Symphony suite of tools powered by AI that TikTok brought to the market this year, which were presented at the Cannes Lions Festival. And yeah, we were there to share that. So it's constant, like little projects like that keep us tight together and keep the relationship ongoing. Recently, I was at the TikTok Summit in Italy. TikTok Europe at the European level has these awards called the TikTok Ad Awards, for which every single country in Europe, every single brands in every single country can obviously upload the ads that they've created that year on TikTok. And last year I was part of the jury in Italy. And then obviously the Italian winner went to the, as I explained, to the European board, and Italy actually won at a European level. It won for 2 or 3 years in a row, which
Fascinating.
yeah.
Did you have something to do with it?
This time, really, no, I was just part of the jury. And this, once again, is one of the wonderful opportunities that creating content brought me. So, how can you not be motivated? When they ask you to be part of the jury with like some incredible people from all the creative industries and all the advertisement industry, and you're there and you're just, saying what you think. So yeah, I mean, I guess the journey with TikTok has been fantastic. Yeah.
And I want to wrap it up on your other personal highlight, which is related to the iPhone 16. Can you tell me about that experience and then maybe some of your tips and hacks and functionalities of the new phone that probably most people are not aware of?
Definitely. So that's actually the format that got me the first followers. I have this series of videos where I basically explain how to use your iPhone. So it's tips, tricks, but it's also kind of like a deep dive into how to achieve that using these features and literally what buttons to press. So when they called me to go to Cupertino, this actually is a result of like an ongoing relationship that I do have with Apple. They're amazing, they're fantastic, they're so professional, and they're really, really rewarding the creators that are willing to work with them. So it's really a partnership, um, a strong partnership. And as a result of that, they did call me to go to Cupertino, which is a major honor and opportunity, because at the time they used to invite journalists, and then they started inviting some selected YouTubers, and now they're opening up a little more to creators. But I really didn't expect it. I actually did ask, like, why me? Like, there's people who are much more technologically savvy than me and who could have kind of like given value from that angle. And they did answer that it was because of the enthusiasm, that I showed in the past years, which I'm so grateful for. And so I went, and it's insane. The Apple Park is fantastic. Like, it's incredible. It looks like a spaceship. They actually call it that. And then I didn't get to go in the spaceship, but we did go to the Steve Jobs Theater, which is a little bit more, which is separate, and it's 10 minutes walk from the spaceship, and it's insane. It's beautiful. Everything is obviously Apple designed, and I'm obsessed with it. And I'm such a maniac with Apple and the way that they care every single detail. I actually did a piece of content on that specifically. Like, if you watch it, you'll notice that every single corner, in every single table, in every single building at the Apple Park has that little iPhone corner that the AirPods have as well. Like, nothing is left to chance, and it's just so amazing. So there's a shop, there's a coffee shop, there's obviously all the employees who go around biking everywhere in the Apple Park.
It sounds fascinating.
insane.
And your face is lighting up
Oh,
as you're talking about it.
no, it was really insane. I was there for 24 hours. No, sorry, 48 hours. So from London, 48 hours in and out. And yeah, so obviously they did. So Tim Cook was there, and he introduced the presentation, which then was live for everyone to see. But watching it there was obviously a privilege, because after the presentation ended, we had the hands-on moment, which means that we were the first people in the world to actually try the products out, to see them, to touch them, and obviously to record content with it. So we had, I don't remember how long, maybe 2 hours to play around with all the new tools that they launched, the Apple Watch.
For you, it's like being a kid in a candy store. I mean, you and everyone else in that room, I imagine.
Yeah, it was such a learning curve for me, though, because I've noticed that obviously I couldn't prepare that much on whatever they were going to launch, because no one knows what it is exactly. Like, you have speculation, but no one knows. But you still can prepare, which types of content you're going to want to shoot and how, but you're never fully prepared. Like, when I was there, I really saw what other people that have been going for years were doing, and I thought to myself, okay, learnings for next time, this and that. But at the same time, I also think that having a fresh outlook on it, so being the first time that you're there, you can add something to it too. So 2 of my pieces of content reached the highest views that I've ever got, because I did them mute. So obviously I wasn't going to throw away the opportunity of being one of the first in the world to use it. So I wasn't going to do it in Italian. So one reached, I think, 17 million views, and the other one something like 16 million, which was insane. It helped that the new iPhone was pink, so that helped. But yeah, so
Who
that was
doesn't like pink?
exactly. and we were really waiting for that color. So yeah, September was that.
And so to wrap it up, there's something that you mentioned to me earlier as advice that you give people, and I loved it. Don't get too paranoid, just post.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Honestly, I think that whatever you want to say is already in you and you already know what it is, even if you think you don't. And I think that most of the blockage that people have is psychological. So creating and consuming content is a complete psychological journey. And you have to work on yourself to be able to break the barrier and make something good out of it, both in the consumption space and the creation space. So just post it, and now you can trial it, right?
I love that. I
So-
think I will use that functionality.
I think you should.
Especially as I'm essentially starting a new persona of myself
Yeah.
with this podcast.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense.
Doesn't it make you feel more comfortable knowing that?
It does. I think just because in a way, I feel that it will give me, I almost think about it from an A/B testing perspective.
Of course,
You're reaching so many more people from such a broader audience. Whereas if you're testing with your friends and family, it's such a small sample, right? And it's a very specific, there is a bias in a way, like.
Yeah, you're not going to be free to be yourself as much as you would with a stranger.
Exactly, but also there's a certain level of similarities in that circle, whether it's the background, the education, the interest, the preferences, the demographic, etc. Whereas if you have access to almost the full audience that is available on the platforms, it just opens up the doors to, I think, such a better way of sampling.
Yeah, you can reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
Because it won't be shown to whoever follows you, which really sets you free in a way.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna test it.
Yes.
Amazing. I think we covered everything. Was there anything else you wanted to share?
I'm looking forward to seeing this come to life and all the amazing content that will come out of all of the episodes with the wonderful women you're interviewing. And I'm so happy to be here. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. And actually, I just remembered your experience with the TikTok CEO.
Oh,
You want
yeah.
to share the question you asked him? So you find yourself in a room with a few people and the TikTok CEO.
Yeah, so when we were in Cannes Lions, they gave us the chance to have breakfast with the CEO show. And we were 10 of us, probably 10 creators from all over the world. And we had 20 minutes with him, which might seem like it's nothing, but it was actually so much time considering that most of the people who work at TikTok have never met him. So I felt so bad as well because, he's the boss of the bosses, And 20 minutes with him, one question each. And I was thinking and thinking and thinking. I wasn't told that much in advance. So I was really kind of trying to prep on I need to shock him. I need to kind of give him such a great first impression, elevator pitch kind of.
Yeah, make an impact.
But then I thought to myself, this guy is going to forget about me probably soon because fair enough. He has other things to think about. So I might as well just ask him something that will be useful to me and not something just to kind of show off. So I did think, what's my biggest challenge, something that I've been working on, and it's related to decision making. So I simply asked him how he makes his decisions. What's his strategy process? What one way to kind of make it easier for him to make big decisions? Because I feel like he must make a lot in his daily life.
I can't even imagine.
And so he shared such a simple but brilliant trick. He said, look, what I do is when I need to make a big decision, I convince my brain that I made this decision, one of the two decisions, that I took this path, and that the other one doesn't exist anymore. I don't have that option anymore. I chose, and this is my choice. And I picture myself living that choice. Should I choose this university or this other one? I pick this one. I choose this one. I see myself studying in the library. I see myself telling other people that that's where I go. I really tricked my brain into thinking, that's it. The other uni didn't even accept me. Obviously, this is me. He didn't say all of this, but the juice was this.
Yeah, he acts upon and he lives that experience.
Yeah. And then he gives himself time. He said 24 hours and then sometimes more time if needed. And if he changes his mind during this time, then he changes his mind. Even though he says, I usually don't change my mind. If I don't, I'll stick with it, and that's it forever else. I stuck with it. It's simple, but it really helps. I've been trying to do that.
You've been trying it?
Yeah, and it really helps. So yeah, try it out.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to
you.
have this episode live in due time. And the podcast is going to be called She Can Drive.
Oh my God.
Can you drive?
I can drive.
You can drive. What kind of driver are you?
I am well, my boyfriend is my passenger princess, by the way, because he just recently got his license. So
there we go.
Yeah.
I love it. Breaking the stereotype. This podcast, it's for the women who really don't fit in a box, and actually they never wanted to. So if this sounds like you, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and of course, hit play.